This will hurt someone.
There are some videos we were never supposed to see, yet they haunted an entire generation. From the worst crimes you can imagine to scenes you would have preferred to never see. This is the story of the forgotten videos that scared the internet. Robert Bud Dwyer. Robert Bud Dwyer was an American politician born in 1939 in Missouri. From a very young age, Robert achieved the life of every American politician dreamed of, being elected 3 times to the Pennsylvania House of Representatives, senator twice, a wife and 2 children who loved him, and what he had always dreamed of, being treasurer of the state of Pennsylvania. His success seemed unbeatable, but all this would change on January 21st, 1987. Robert was being investigated for corruption when it was discovered he had received a $300,000 bribe. All this was in exchange for awarding a $4.6 million contract to Computer Technology Associates. After this discovery, Robert had 2 options: admit his guilt and be sentenced to 5 years in prison, or defend his innocence and face a sentence up to 50 years. At first, everyone thought Robert would admit his guilt, but he had another plan in mind. On the morning of January 22, 1987, Robert Dwyer held a press conference where many expected him to resign. Robert gave an emotional speech in front of cameras from several TV networks, broadcasting his words live to viewers across the U.S.
I face a maximum sentence of 55 years in prison and a $300,000 fine for being innocent.
Spoke passionately about the need to reform the U.S. justice system, and expressed deep love for his family.
I thank the good Lord for giving me 47 years of exciting challenges, stimulating experiences, many happy occasions, and most of all, the finest wife and children any man could ever desire.
After finishing his speech, Dwyer pulled a gun from an envelope and warned everyone in the room that he was about to commit suicide, asking those who might be affected to leave. He then placed the gun in his mouth and fired, ending his life at that moment. By dying in office, Dwyer ensured that his wife and family would receive a large financial payout. The honest man was at least able to say goodbye to his family, because Elisa Lam wasn't that lucky. Elisa Lam was a 10-year-old student from Vancouver who traveled to Los Angeles in January 2013 with one goal in mind: take a break from her student life and go into search of adventure. But what Elisa found was something darker than she could have ever imagined. On January 28th of that year, Lam checked into the Cecil Hotel, a place with a dark history dating back to the 1920s. Over the years, the hotel had been the scene of multiple suicides and mysterious deaths. Every day since she began her trip, she had called her parents to explain her upcoming plans. Suddenly, on January 31st, she stopped calling. Her family, not receiving a response from their daughter, reported her missing. The night of January 31st, 2013, would be the last time Elisa would be seen alive. That same day, the hotel elevator cameras recorded something terrifying. For about 4 minutes, Elisa would act very strangely. She would move her hands very agitatedly. She looked up and down the hotel hallway in fear, and forcefully pressed the elevator buttons, as if she were trying to escape from someone who would never appear in the hotel's recordings. After this, Elisa disappeared without a trace, as if she had been swallowed by the shadows of the Cecil Hotel. Days turned into weeks, and Elisa was nowhere to be seen. Her desperate parents traveled from Canada to join the search for their daughter. The police emptied the hotel, searched every room, and watched every possible recording, but Elisa was nowhere to be seen. But this would change on February 19th. During this time Elisa was missing, guests had been having problems with the water pressure. Some argued that the water had a dark color. Others simply argued that it tasted unusual.
Well, it has a very funny, sweety, disgusting taste. It's very, very strange taste. I can barely describe it.
Due to the constant complaints, the hotel staff decided to check the water tanks. Then they discovered something that would change everything. While checking the water tanks, they found something floating inside one of them. What they didn't know was that they had found Elisa Lam's body. But how did Elisa get there? The tanks were locked and the rooftop was inaccessible to guests. Furthermore, Elisa was nearly sighted and could have hardly gotten there alone in the dark. At the time of the autopsy, no signs of physical assault or drug abuse were found. 4 months later, the police closed the case. They concluded that Elisa, in the midst of a hallucinatory episode, fell into the water tank and was unable to get out. Although Elisa Lam's case is mysterious, the next one you're going to see is terrifying. 3 guys, 1 hammer. 2007, Ukraine. Viktor Sayenko and Igor Supruniak, 2 19-year-olds, unleashed a wave of terror that many will never forget. In just 1 month, they murdered 21 people. Viktor and Igor's targets were always the same: children, pregnant women, or the elderly. But if that weren't enough, what was disturbing was what they found next. Viktor and Igor didn't for money or revenge. They did it for fun. To the point of recording themselves while committing their crimes. And the methods they used were terrifying. On December 4th, 2008, a video of Viktor and Igor was leaked. A video that many would like to erase from their memories. The video shows how they brutally tortured Serhiy Yatsenko, a 48-year-old cancer survivor, and all this with only a hammer and a screwdriver. Despite the torture, Yatsenko continued to move and tried to breathe, but it wouldn't be enough. Once it was all over, Viktor and Igor would walk away, as if nothing happened. But their luck would soon run out. While trying to sell one of the phones they had stolen, they were arrested. After their arrest, the police found videos of them on their phones. At the time of the trial, the decision was swift. Viktor and Igor were sentenced to life imprisonment, thus ending the horror of the Dnipro maniacs. You're watching TV like any other day when suddenly this happens. The incident, known as the max headroom signal jamming, seems funny and harmless, but at the time, it wasn't. Those who watched the live video described it as terrifying. What made the video even more disturbing was the mask's disturbing effect. The mask of max headroom. But this would happen not once, but twice. To this day, the identity of the kidnappers remains unsolved.
On Sunday, hundreds rallied outside police headquarters in London to protest Saturday's police response, which they say has left them feeling more angry and unsafe.
On March 3, 2021, Sarah Everard, a 33-year-old woman, left a friend's house in Clapham, London, to walk home. Sarah was wearing brightly colored clothes, walking along well-lit streets and talking on the phone with her boyfriend. But this didn't stop what was about to happen to her. The last time Sarah was seen alive, she was talking to Wayne Couzens. Wayne was a police officer, someone we're all supposed to trust. For days, Sarah's disappearance remained a mystery. Friends and family shared her photo on social media, and the police began a desperate search. A week later, the worst-case scenario was confirmed. Sarah's body was found in a forest in Kent, more than 100 kilometers from where she was last seen. Sarah had been kidnapped, and all this for someone she should have trusted. Officer Wayne Couzens. Wayne used his authority as a police officer to stop her on the street. He told Sarah she had violated COVID-19 restrictions, so he managed to get her into his car. He drove her to a remote forest where no one could see them and ended Sarah's life. The news shocked the United Kingdom. Thousands of women took to the streets demanding justice and announcing that they don't feel safe even when they do everything right. Wayne Couzens was arrested, tried, and sentenced to life in prison.
The second concerns Wayne Couzens, who pleaded guilty to kidnap and rape of Sarah Everard, and later he pleaded guilty to murder. On the 30th of September 2021, he was sentenced to imprisonment for life with a whole life order.
A rare sentence in the UK, but one that reflected the gravity of his crime. Sarah Everard did everything she was told she should do to be safe, and yet, she was never able to go home.
July 26th, I hope to survive and to be able to record the secret world of the bears, and then come September, when people might come to harm these animals, I'll look after them. I'll make sure they're safe.
Timothy Treadwell. Timothy Treadwell was a passionate environmentalist who dreamed of living in harmony with nature. Timothy was a bear fanatic, which led him to create a group called Grizzly People. Timothy's goal was to protect the grizzly bear race. For 13 summers, Timothy lived in Katmai National Park, Alaska. Timothy documented hundreds of hours of video, getting closer to the bears than anyone else dared. According to Timothy, these animals were harmless if treated with respect.
Or these are the bears that on occasion do, for survival, kill and eat humans. Could Ole the big old bear possibly kill and eat Timothy Treadwell? What do you think, Ole?
But his love of nature caused him to ignore a fundamental detail. Bears are not people. They are wild, unpredictable, and often dangerous animals. And Timothy was making a grave mistake. Like every year, Timothy used to leave the park in late summer. At that time, the bears were already beginning to prepare for the hibernation of the cold Alaskan winter. However, in October 2003, Timothy decided to stay longer than usual. By then, the bears he knew had already hibernated, and the ones that remained were much more aggressive and hungry bears. But that never bothered Timothy. However, that would change on October 5th, 2003. Timothy was with his girlfriend Amy. It seemed like a normal day, with hardly any big news, until they finally found a bear. But this one was not like all the others Timothy had seen. This bear was hungry, and within seconds it attacked Timothy. All this was happening while his girlfriend was filming. In the footage that would be found, Timothy could be heard screaming for help and his girlfriend trying to help him. But the result was not what they were looking for. During more than 6 minutes of footage, you could see how the bear devoured first Timothy and then his girlfriend. A recording that to this day would never come to light due to its brutality. The next day, a pilot who was supposed to pick up Timothy found the camp destroyed, along with the remains of both of them. Soon after, the Rangers found the bear responsible for the attack and put it to sleep. In its stomach, they found the remains of Timothy and Amy's bodies. Timothy thought he could be friends with the bears, but in the end, nature reminded him that he was still wild.
This is our community, and we want to come together. We want to share information that can help us grow and develop to provide a better experience.
On a local morning television show in Virginia, a live report from a shopping mall would reveal one of the most shocking and saddest cases in American history. Allison Parker, 24, and Adam Ward, 27, were reporters and cameramen for local station WDBJ-TV. On the morning of October 26, 2015, they were reporting live from Bridgewater Plaza, an open-air shopping center. Allison interviewed a woman about tourism in the area, while Adam recorded the scene for the morning news. Everything seemed normal that day, but something would change in the blink of an eye. From one moment to the next, several shots were heard in the middle of the transmission. The camera wobbled and then fell to the ground. Screams were heard, and then absolute silence. The signal returned to the studio, and the host, bewildered, didn't know what to say. No one understood what had really happened. The police arrived quickly and confirmed the worst. The live stream had become a crime scene, and everything had been recorded. But who had shot? To understand this, we must go back to the live footage. For a split second during the live broadcast, viewers could see the gunman before he fled. He was soon identified as Bryce Williams, a disgruntled former reporter at the station. Bryce Williams had been fired 2 years earlier for behavioral issues with his coworkers. But the most chilling thing is that he recorded the with his own camera and uploaded the video to his social media accounts while fleeing from the police. Hours later, while being pursued by authorities, Bryce Williams shot himself and died. The exact motive for the crime was his resentment and desire for revenge against his former coworkers. What seemed like a normal interview ended up becoming one of the most shocking tragedies ever broadcast live.
Okay, new tape. As I was saying, I'm about to put the sulfuric acid inside. This is a life and death matter right here. If I don't make it back, that means something happened. This is for you, Bjork.
In life, we all have an artist, a band, a soccer team, or even a YouTuber that we admire. We like to see their achievements, listen to their songs, or simply feel that, in some way, we connect with them. But what happens when that admiration turns into a dangerous obsession? This is the story of Ricardo Lopez, the man who became morbidly obsessed with the Icelandic singer Björk. Ricardo Lopez was a young Uruguayan who moved to the United States. From a young age, he had serious problems with his physical appearance, but that wasn't the worst of it. Ricardo didn't have a girlfriend or friends and barely spoke to a few classmates. Ricardo retreated into his own world, far from reality. But everything would change in 1993 when he discovered the music of the Icelandic singer Björk. From that moment on, his admiration for the singer transformed into an unhealthy obsession. Ricardo began writing extensive diaries in which he talked about her daily. In total, he filled 800 pages with his darkest and most twisted thoughts. But he didn't limit himself to words alone. Ricardo began recording home videos, where he documented his entire thought process. In these recordings, he is seen talking about his love for Björk and his most sinister plans. But something would make it change. Ricardo fantasized about having some kind of connection with her, even though, in reality, Björk didn't even know he existed. And the day Ricardo realized that Björk already had a boyfriend, his unhealthy obsession turned to hatred. For Ricardo, this was a personal betrayal, as if he had failed someone he didn't even know. In his mind, he began to hatch a macabre plan to send her a package bomb containing sulfuric acid. His goal was to disfigure or kill her and ensure she would never forget him. Ricardo recorded the entire process on video. In those tapes, he is seen detailing his plan, building the bomb, and finally, recording his final message to the world.
Very, very nervous. I don't think I've ever been this nervous. Well, I haven't been more nervous than this.
On September 12, 1996, Ricardo recorded his last video, titled Last Day. After sending the package to London, he locked himself in his apartment and prepared for the worst. He shaved his head, put on makeup, and took his own life in front of a camera, while a Björk song played in the background. Days later, the police found his body, and thanks to their recordings, managed to intercept the package before it reached the singer. Björk never knew she was in real danger, but she confessed that the story devastated her. Ricardo Lopez became convinced that he knew Björk, although she never knew of his existence. This obsession drove him to lose his mind, and ultimately, to take his own life.